Hello and welcome to my channel, your go-to source for the latest in WWE 24. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for all the updates. Let's dive right in. A popular star recently spoke about his discussions with Triple H. Hunter currently heads the creative team in WWE. Star Swerve Strickland was an up-and-coming star in WWE. He was part of the popular faction Hit Row on SmackDown alongside other stars such as B-Fab, Ashante the Adonis, and Top Dollar. However, the faction could not live up to their potential, and the stars were gradually released from the company. During a recent interview on the Kings of the Ring podcast, Swerve spoke about his back and forth with Triple H. He noted that the game often avoided him when he came up with creative questions. However, he once heard from Stephanie McMahon that the creative had a major push planned for him. Triple H, me and him were just going back and forth. He was dodging me when I was coming up with creative questions and stuff. And then finally, I think it was Stephanie McMahon that really told me he's my favorite heel on the show. And then that's where okay, now we really got to start putting some fire behind Swerve. The star detailed that he was put into a group at a time when he wasn't comfortable working with the stable. However, he hoped that they would have been successful if he had some more time in the company. So they were like, hey, I think we're gonna put this group behind you. How do you feel? I didn't do groups at the time. I was independent, jumping from city to city, country to country to country. So running a group was just not my thing. I didn't know how to. Swerve Strickland has a major match at Revolution. A major matchup was made official for Revolution this past week. Swerve Strickland accepted Brody King's challenge, setting up the marquee matchup for the pay-per-view. This week on Dynamite, Prince Nana showed up to distract King. This allowed Strickland to blindside Brody. The attack ended with the former champion choking out his opponent with a chain. Strickland then went on to accept King's challenge for a match at Revolution. In the glittering lights and thunderous cheers of a WWE arena, it's easy for fans to forget that the story isn't just on screen. Behind the curtain, the backstage world is often a maze of egos, ambitions, and power dynamics. One of the most talked about developments in recent months has been the enigmatic tension between Triple H and a rising star. A scenario that has left WWE fans and insiders buzzing for weeks. Simply put, Triple H was dodging him, and nobody could figure out why. The story begins months ago, after a high-profile WWE pay-per-view where the wrestler in question delivered an astonishing performance, elevating his status as a legitimate main event caliber talent. On screen, he had captured the hearts of fans with a combination of in-ring skill, charisma, and raw intensity. Off-screen, however, things were far more complicated. Sources close to WWE reveal that the superstar had been attempting to secure a meeting with Triple H to discuss a potential push into the main event scene. This wasn't just about getting more screen time, it was about establishing himself as a serious contender in a landscape dominated by established stars. For most wrestlers, an audience with Triple H, WWE's chief content officer and one of the most influential figures in sports entertainment, can be a career-defining moment. But for this rising star, it seemed that Triple H had other plans. The first hint of avoidance came during WWE's Monday Night Raw tapings. The superstar was seen backstage making repeated attempts to catch Triple H between segments. Every time he approached, the legendary wrestler, now more focused on his executive role than his in-ring career, seemed to slip away. One insider described it as like trying to catch a ghost in the hallway. He was there, but not there. Even members of the locker room began noticing. What made it more mysterious was that Triple H had never shied away from meetings before. He was famously approachable to talent he believed had star potential. So why now? Industry analysts have speculated on multiple reasons. One theory involves Triple H's meticulous approach to timing. Known for his strategic mind, he rarely commits to a push without ensuring that a wrestler's character, storyline, and audience perception align perfectly. Perhaps the rising star, despite undeniable talent, wasn't ready to be thrust into the main event spotlight. Or maybe Triple H was testing his patience, evaluating how he would handle repeated rejection and the mental grind of backstage politics. After all, the WWE isn't just a showcase of physical prowess, it's a psychological battlefield. Compounding matters, the superstar had made public comments on social media expressing excitement about potential storylines and rivalries. While nothing overtly critical was said about Triple H, insiders suggest that these posts may have rubbed the executive the wrong way. In WWE, perception is everything. An outburst of excitement, misinterpreted as impatience or entitlement, can sometimes make even the most talented wrestlers a risky investment in a narrative sense. Fans may have celebrated the posts, but backstage, every move is scrutinized, and every comment could carry consequences. Despite this, the superstar's commitment never wavered. He continued to show up early to tapings, stay late after segments, and maintain a rigorous training regimen. His dedication was clear to the locker room and even to the fans, who were beginning to notice his elevated presence on television. Yet, when it came to the executive meeting, Triple H remained elusive. According to one veteran WWE star, he's dodging him like a game of chess. Every time the young guy moves, Triple H moves 2 steps ahead. It's maddening, but that's Triple H. The situation reached a boiling point during a backstage segment at a major WWE event. The superstar was scheduled to have a storyline confrontation with a legendary heel, and the match required precise planning with Triple H's approval. For days, he had attempted to coordinate the segment, but Triple H remained unavailable. Other executives and producers tried to step in, but the approval process stalled because, ultimately, Triple H's final sign-off was mandatory. The superstar began to feel frustrated, even publicly expressing his concerns in interviews, though carefully avoiding any direct criticism of WWE leadership. Fans, ever perceptive, started to pick up on the tension. Social media threads were filled with speculation. Why won't Triple H meet him? One tweet read, "Is he being punished for something?" Another asked. Wrestling podcasts dissected every angle, from storyline implications to real-life management decisions. The narrative grew larger than the individual moments. Triple H was now not just dodging him, but a symbol of the invisible barriers that wrestlers often face in the corporate side of WWE. Finally, an insider revealed a potential reason that had been hidden until now. Triple H, it turns out, was wrestling with a delicate balance between creative risk and maintaining the integrity of WWE's storytelling. The rising star had a high-risk, aggressive wrestling style that could electrify live audiences but also carried a higher injury potential. Triple H, known for his deep knowledge of in-ring psychology, may have been cautious about giving full backing until he could ensure that the superstar was fully prepared for the pressures of a main event schedule. In other words, Triple H wasn't dodging him out of personal disdain, it was calculated caution. Still, that didn't make the superstar's frustration any less real. He began to channel his energy into his performances, allowing his matches to speak louder than any meeting could. His promos became sharper, his physical storytelling more compelling, and his interactions with fellow wrestlers more nuanced. Backstage observers noted that his resilience was remarkable. Where some would have let repeated avoidance dampen their drive, he used it as fuel. And, ironically, this perseverance began to turn Triple H's avoidance into a narrative itself, a real-life underdog story unfolding behind the scenes. Fans, unknowingly witnessing these dynamics play out through televised segments, began to speculate wildly. The superstar's apparent snubs, missed opportunities, and continued excellence started to resemble a slow-burn storyline that WWE often cultivates for major character breakthroughs. It was the kind of tension that makes a fan base riot with excitement, even if they didn't fully understand the backstage reality. Triple H's elusive behavior added an air of mystique. Every time he appeared in the arena, fans wondered whether the meeting would finally occur, and what consequences it might have for the superstar's career trajectory. Some backstage allies of the rising star began to strategize. They suggested indirect approaches, building alliances with other influential figures in WWE, impressing in key televised moments, and creating undeniable fan demand. The logic was clear: if Triple H continued to dodge him, then the superstar could use the court of public opinion as leverage. After all, WWE executives are acutely aware of the power of fan perception. A vocal, engaged fan base demanding a push can be more persuasive than any private meeting. As weeks turned into months, the tension reached new heights. During a live Raw broadcast, a surprise segment placed the superstar and Triple H in the same arena, mere feet apart. Cameras captured fleeting glances, subtle body language, and what appeared to be near collisions in the hallway. Fans erupted online, interpreting the interaction as either a brewing storyline or a very real backstage drama spilling into public view. Every handshake missed, every unspoken word, and every evasive movement became fodder for fan speculation. Triple H, in his trademark style, remained calm, almost impervious, letting the drama build naturally. Behind closed doors, however, conversations were finally beginning. Trusted aides report that Triple H had not been dodging out of animosity or oversight, he had been meticulously planning the timing. The superstar, they believed, was ready, but the executive wanted the right storyline context, the perfect narrative setup, and a guaranteed impact on both ratings and fan engagement. In WWE, timing is everything, and Triple H was known as a master of patience. Meanwhile, the superstar's reputation grew. He became a locker room favorite, not just for his in-ring talent but also for his professionalism under pressure. Even veteran stars acknowledged that navigating Triple H's elusive presence was a test of character, resilience, and dedication. Those who had endured similar situations in the past knew that such trials often precede a major push, a transformative storyline, or a defining match. In many ways, Triple H's avoidance had inadvertently forged the superstar's identity, a modern gladiator tempered in the furnace of corporate intrigue. Finally, the long-awaited meeting occurred. Reports indicate it was not an impromptu conversation but a carefully orchestrated encounter. The superstar was summoned to a private room where Triple H, calm yet commanding, laid out the roadmap for his career. Every question, every concern, and every ambition was addressed. The executive's initial avoidance now seemed strategic rather than personal. Triple H's philosophy was clear: a true main event star must not only survive the physical toll of WWE but also the mental chess of its power dynamics. The superstar had passed the test. In the aftermath, WWE insiders noted a transformation. The superstar's push began in earnest, with carefully timed matches, compelling storylines, and increasing fan engagement. Triple H's influence remained, but now it was collaborative rather than obstructive. What had once seemed like avoidance became a lesson in patience, strategy, and the often invisible challenges that define WWE careers. The backstage saga had unfolded almost like a narrative within a narrative, an off-screen story as thrilling and intricate as any match broadcast live. As fans continue to debate storylines and dream about upcoming matches, few realize that some of the most compelling drama occurs far from the cameras. Triple H was dodging him, yes, but in the dodge was strategy, caution, and ultimately, the making of a future superstar. The scenario underscores a truth about WWE: sometimes the most intense rivalries, the most dramatic moments, and the most inspiring career leaps are forged not only in the ring but in the quiet tension behind the scenes. This saga, with all its near misses, tense encounters, and calculated avoidance, has now become legend in the locker room, a reminder that patience, perseverance, and strategic timing can define careers as much as talent and charisma ever will. And for fans watching, it's the ultimate reminder: in WWE, even what seems like avoidance can be the first act of a much larger story.